Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to the fifth episode of our weekly Places in News. In this session, we are going to cover the important places that were in news over the last 1 week, that is between the 18th of April and the 24th of April. This series has been designed to help you in map reading and map-based questions for both prelims and mains. If you're liking the new initiative, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. So let's start with the first place that was in news, which is Horn of Africa. This place was in news because last week, the World Food Programme of the United Nations brought out alarming report. According to the report, 20 million people in Horn of Africa are staring at hunger and starvation as a result of extreme drought in the region. That is why it becomes important to know where Horn of Africa is located and to be familiar with the geography of this region. So let's do this with the help of a practice question and a relevant map. The question says, the Horn of Africa is composed of which countries? Does it include Somalia, Djibouti, Eritrea, and Ethiopia? To answer this question, let me show you a relevant map. In this map, you can clearly see the Horn of Africa region. It is located in the eastern part of Africa over here, and it is known as the Horn of Africa because the shape of this region looks like the horn of an animal. It is surrounded by the Red Sea to the north, Gulf of Aden to the north as well, and towards the east of Horn of Africa, we have the Arabian Sea and the western part of the Indian Ocean region. This region, known as Horn of Africa, is comprised of 4 countries. This includes Ethiopia, Somalia, Djibouti over here, and finally Eritrea. By looking at this, we can easily answer the question. All the 4 countries are part of Horn of Africa. The right answer is option D, 1, 2, 3 and 4. But along with this, let me provide you some additional points related to the Horn of Africa region. The Horn of Africa is located in a strategically very important region. In this map, you can see a strategic choke point known as the Bab el-Mandeb Strait that is located over here. It is located to the north of Horn of Africa. It is sandwiched between Djibouti and Yemen. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait is a strategic choke point because it is a narrow water body that is connecting the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. It happens to be a very important sea lane of communication that connects Europe with the rest of Asia. So ensuring peace and stability at this strategic choke point is of great importance because the region is hit by a number of adverse developments. There are a number of countries going through civil war over here, like Somalia, Yemen, and the others. The region is hit by terrorism and piracy as well. And all of this threatens shipping through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which is critical for the global economy. So to stabilize the region and to ensure maritime security in the region, many major powers have even set up their naval bases and military facilities at this country known as Djibouti, which is part of Horn of Africa. The United States, European countries, and even China has set up a military base at Djibouti, and this is what makes the region very important. The region is also hit by piracy. This is attributed to Somalia. Somalia has been in a state of civil war for many decades, and it is largely governed by a terrorist outfit known as Al-Shabaab. This terror group is affiliated with the ideology of Al-Qaeda, and it sponsors the Somalian pirates to hijack the ships that are passing through the region in order to extract a ransom. This poses a threat to commercial shipping and navigation in the region and thereby has an impact on the global economy as well. That is why Horn of Africa, Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the Gulf of Aden, they are all very important for your exams. And also please note, in a broader sense, Horn of Africa also includes few parts of Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan and Sudan as well. But that is a broader definition. But in a general sense, Horn of Africa primarily includes only 4 countries, that is Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea and Djibouti. In this map, you can also see one of the great lakes of Africa, that is Lake Victoria over here, that is shared between Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania and Rwanda. These are some important locations you have to be familiar with, and this topic has helped us to revise this key location. With this, let's move on to the second location that was in news, which is Maldives. See, Maldives was in news because last week, India and Maldives jointly unveiled a maritime navigation chart of the exclusive economic zone of Maldives. This joint maritime navigation chart has been developed by using hydrographic surveys which were carried out through the technical assistance of India. That is why it's important to be familiar with the geography and location of Maldives, because Maldives happens to be a key partner for India in the Indian Ocean with regard to maritime security. So let's understand more about Maldives by taking a question and a relevant map. Which of the following statements are correct? Maldives lies to the southeast of India and Sri Lanka. Maldives stretches across the equator from the northern to the southern hemisphere. The maritime boundary between Maldives and India runs through the 8-degree channel. 8-degree channel separates the island of Minicoy in India from Maldives. Again, to answer the question, we have to take a look at a relevant map. The map clearly shows as to where Maldives is located. Maldives is made up of hundreds of islands. It's basically an archipelago of islands. These islands are known as atolls, and hence Maldives is also referred to as an atoll state. See, Maldives is situated on the Chagos Laccadive Ridge, which happens to be an underwater mountain-like structure that runs all the way from Mauritius and Chagos over here towards Maldives and ends at Lakshadweep Islands of India. This is where Maldives is located. You can see clearly in the map, it is not located to the southeast of India and Sri Lanka. This would be the southeast direction. But Maldives is located towards the southwest direction of India and Sri Lanka. That is why the first statement is incorrect. But the second statement given is correct because you can clearly see that Maldives is crossing over the equator. The northernmost island of Maldives, its northernmost atoll, is close to the Lakshadweep Islands of India, and the southernmost atoll known as the Adu Atoll, it is located across the equator. So Maldives stretches from northern hemisphere to southern hemisphere and crosses over the equator. So second statement is also correct. And in the same map, you can see a very, very important island over here known as the Diogo Garcia Island. This happens to be a British Indian overseas territory, and Britain, after the Second World War, leased this strategic island to the United States, and the US has set up a major military base at Diogo Garcia. So as you can see, Maldives is located in a strategic location in the Indian Ocean region, and hence it's a key partner for India with regard to maritime security. India and Maldives also share a maritime boundary which was settled through the Maritime Boundary Agreement of 1976. The two countries share an exclusive economic zone, and the maritime boundary line, which is clearly depicted in the map over here, passes through the 8-degree channel. This 8-degree channel, which represents 8-degree north latitude, it divides the EEZ of India and Maldives. So the third statement is also correct. Now coming to the fourth statement, 8-degree channel is dividing the Minicoy Island of India's Lakshadweep from Maldives. You can clearly see that in the map as well. A few other important locations in this map would include the 9-degree channel that you can see over here, which divides the Minicoy Island of India from the rest of Lakshadweep Islands. And in this map, you can also see that India, Maldives and Sri Lanka, they actually share their exclusive economic zones and they intersect at a point in the Indian Ocean over here. So this again happens to be a strategic point, as there exists a tri-junction point between India, Maldives and Sri Lanka with regard to their exclusive economic zones. So with this understanding, we can eliminate the first statement. The first statement is clearly incorrect because Maldives lies to the southwest of India and Sri Lanka, not to the southeast. If you do this, you can easily eliminate option A, C and D, and clearly option B becomes the right answer. Now coming to the third topic, let's talk about Rwanda. Rwanda is an African country, and this country was in news last week because the United Kingdom and Rwanda have signed an important agreement known as the Migration and Economic Development Partnership. Through this agreement, the UK is looking to transfer the refugees and asylum seekers it receives from Middle Eastern countries to this African country. Basically, the UK is looking to offload its burden of refugees and asylum seekers by sending them away to this faraway African nation. For this purpose, it has struck a deal with Rwanda, and Rwanda in exchange will receive financial assistance and support from the United Kingdom. So Rwanda would accept these refugees coming from Middle Eastern countries who are seeking asylum in the United Kingdom. But this agreement became very controversial last week on humanitarian grounds. So that is why it becomes important to talk about Rwanda and its location. So let's take a question and a map and understand where is Rwanda located. Which of the following statements are correct with regard to Rwanda? It is a landlocked country. It is located a few degrees south of the equator. It is bordered by Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, and the DRC, or the Democratic Republic of Congo. Again, to check whether these statements are correct or not, we need to look at a couple of important maps. This map clearly shows you where Rwanda is located. Rwanda is located at a point where Central Africa and East Africa intersect. It is located in and around the Great African Lakes, which are created by the Great African Rift Valley. And Rwanda is surrounded by Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, and the DRC, or the Democratic Republic of Congo. And in the map, you can also clearly see that Rwanda is located to the south of the equator. This is the equator over here. So clearly Rwanda is located to the south of the equator. So we can say that statements 2 and 3 are correct. Even statement 1 happens to be correct because as you can see in the map, Rwanda is a landlocked country, meaning it does not have direct access to the sea. So all the 3 given statements are correct and hence option C is the right answer. Now coming back to this map, I would like to highlight another important location over here. In the map, you can see a place known as Kigali. Kigali happens to be the capital of Rwanda. It is also the largest city of Rwanda. Kigali is in news because this is the place where the Kigali Agreement was signed, which happens to be an amendment to the Montreal Protocol of 1987 that dealt with reduction and emission of hydrofluorocarbons, which happens to be a type of ozone depleting substance. So you should be familiar with such important places where conventions and treaties have been signed. In the map, you can also see a number of Great Lakes of Africa that are created by the Great African Rift Valley. This includes Lake Victoria over here, which happens to be the second largest freshwater lake in the world in terms of area. It is shared between Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania. In the map, you can also see another great African lake, that is Lake Tanganyika. This happens to be the second largest freshwater lake in the world in terms of volume and depth. So the location and geographical features of Rwanda can be important for prelims because of the UK-Rwanda agreement related to refugees and asylum seekers. Now let's move on to the next place that was in news, which is Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. Both the states were in news because last week, the 2 state governments have agreed to set up a district committee in order to resolve their long-standing border dispute. I hope you know that Assam has border disputes with many bordering states, and it has one such dispute with Arunachal Pradesh as well. Recently, Assam has settled its dispute, at least a part of its dispute with Meghalaya. And recently, Assam had clashes and conflict with another neighboring state, that is Mizoram. In this context, Assam and Arunachal Pradesh have agreed to quickly resolve their border dispute without any unnecessary escalation, and for this purpose, they have set up a district level committee. That is why Assam and Arunachal Pradesh were in news. So let's understand the geography of the region better by looking at a map with the help of a practice question. The question says, which of the following statements are correct? Assam shares a border with all the other northeastern states. Assam also shares an international boundary with Bhutan and Bangladesh. Arunachal Pradesh shares an international boundary with Bhutan, China, and Myanmar. Let's answer this question by looking at a map of the northeast of India. In the map, you can clearly see that Assam is actually sharing a boundary with all the other 6 northeastern states of India. This includes Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, and Meghalaya. So this clearly makes the first statement correct. And please remember, Assam has boundary disputes with Nagaland, with Mizoram, and recently Assam and Mizoram had clashes and conflicts over their border dispute. Assam also has border disputes with Meghalaya, and recently this was in news because a part of the boundary dispute has been worked out and settled with the help of the central government. And finally, Assam has boundary dispute with Arunachal Pradesh as well. Apart from this, Assam also shares boundaries with West Bengal over here in the Darjeeling-Siliguri corridor region. So an important point to remember is that Assam shares a boundary with all the other 6 northeastern states. Apart from this, Assam shares an international boundary with Bhutan over here and as well as with Bangladesh over here. This makes the second statement correct as well. Now coming to Arunachal Pradesh, it shares an international boundary with Bhutan to the west, with China to the north, that's over here, and it also shares a boundary with Myanmar to its east over here. Also, please note down the other Indian states that share boundaries with Myanmar. It can be very important for prelims and even for mains under internal security. The Indian states that share boundaries with Myanmar include Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, and Mizoram. Then talking about India's borders with Bangladesh. This happens to be the longest land boundary for India. And the states that share this boundary include West Bengal over here, Assam and Meghalaya, and of course Tripura and Mizoram. These are the Indian states that share boundaries with Bangladesh. So such geographical locations, such geographical features can be very, very relevant for prelims and mains. So now it's very easy to answer this question. We can easily say that option D is the right answer. 1, 2, and 3. All the 3 statements are correct. Now let's move on to the 5th and the last topic, under which we are going to talk about the Rohingyas and the places that they are often associated with. This topic was in news because last week it was reported that India has begun deporting few Rohingya refugees back to Myanmar. That is why it's important to understand where are the Rohingyas from? What is the issue surrounding the Rohingyas? So let's do this with the help of a map and a question. Rohingyas are often associated with which of the following places? Are they associated with Chittagong, Rakhine, or Cox's Bazar? Again, to answer the question, let me show you a relevant map. See, Rohingyas, they happen to be an ethnic Muslim minority that belong to the Chittagong, Cox's Bazar, and Rakhine region of today's Bangladesh and Myanmar. Historically, they belong to these regions. They are associated with all these regions. But over the centuries, Rohingyas had naturally migrated from today's Bangladesh, that is from Chittagong and Cox's Bazar area, and they had largely settled in the Rakhine state of Myanmar. Post-independence, Myanmar took away the citizenship of Rohingyas as a part of its discriminatory policy, and it rendered the Rohingyas stateless through its Citizenship Act. Following this, Rohingyas have been targeted, persecuted, and oppressed by Myanmar's army, along with the radical Buddhists, who have always refused to accept Rohingyas as their own citizens. They have said Rohingyas are the responsibility of Bangladesh. As a result of such ethnic and communal violence, Rohingyas have been persecuted and they have often fled the region into neighboring Bangladesh, where they have sought refuge back in the native areas such as Chittagong and Cox's Bazar. So today, Bangladesh accommodates a number of Rohingya refugees in Chittagong and Cox's Bazar. But yes, Rohingyas are native to the Rakhine state of Myanmar in modern times. But historically speaking, they have been associated with Chittagong and Cox's Bazar of Bangladesh as well. And because of the humanitarian crisis and the refugee crisis, Rohingyas have come back to Chittagong and Cox's Bazar, where they have been resettled as refugees in Bangladesh. These Rohingya refugees have even come into India seeking refuge. Then Rohingyas have even sought refuge in other nearby countries, such as Thailand and Malaysia. And clearly, they are the world's most persecuted community. And historically and in modern times, they are associated with places such as the Rakhine state of Myanmar, Chittagong and Cox's Bazar area of Bangladesh. So this makes option D the right answer. Rohingyas have been associated with all the 3 places given over here. So with this, I would like to bring this discussion to an end. And if you found the initiative to be helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.